Greetings. Welcome to the Equity.Guru Investor Roundtable. Today we're talking about a client company. It's called Medexus Pharmaceuticals. It is Ken Untramall out of Bolton, Ontario. It is MDP, M Dog Pony, on the Toronto Exchange. Chris Perry has written about them. He knows them. They're a client. To know them is to love them. Chris?
You know what's funny is the only American that can properly say Dontramol is a hockey guy. The only way you get an American to say French names right. All right, Medexus, MDP in ticker symbols and in your hearts. This is a client from a couple of years ago the basics of their company is they take existing medications that are approved by the FDA that are maybe being commercialized but not to their fullest potential. And if they spot something that they think can be slightly changed platform-wise to make it accessible to more people, or make it less expensive, or make it, in some way improve the commercialization of a medication, then they will put that FDA application in to upgrade it. Otherwise, they just go out there looking for things that they can sell better than the existing people selling. So, story time. They were going through that process, one of their medications, a while back, and the FDA said, hey, we could use some more information about this. Would you mind answering some questions? And the markets responded the way markets tend to do when it comes to biotech in Canada. They understand black, they understand white, they do not understand gray. So the markets thought, oh my God, this isn't going to get FDA approved, and started selling off in a festive fashion. Stock takes a hit. People start bailing out. People that have been there a long time say, I'm not in for this, see you later. Medexus gets created. But sometimes the FDA just actually needs answers to some questions. So these guys put forward their answers, resubmitted, process continues. And the FDA said, hey, you know what? We've got another couple of questions about your data. Medexus has the data, it refers to it easily, sends those answers in, no problem at all. But again, the market goes, Bleh. So here you've got a stock now that has been really had the value ripped out of it. These guys are still doing $20 million revenue a year and are still picking up other medications, licensing for other medications is going to increase that revenue accordingly. So even if you took the FDA process out of the game, this company is doing decent business. But assuming that those FDA questions were asked for a reason, that is, they want to actually get to a point of approval, you've got a potential bonus round for this company when the correct information emerges. So as soon as that FDA approval hits, you're going to wake up one morning and this company is going to be worth a lot more than it is currently, which is why they've engaged us to actually go out there and tell that story and make sure people know so that it doesn't catch everybody by surprise. Right now, Medexus, for mine, is it's an arbitrage, right? You get to take advantage of the fact that the markets don't know what they're doing when it comes to FDA approvals in Canada, and you just get to sit there and wait for that conveyor belt to roll through and get to the end result, which is FDA saying, thank you, Medexus, you can now go ahead and sell your stuff.
And believe me, when that happens, man, phew,
right?
Usually it's a pretty big jump on.
That's biotech in Canada, especially, right? Biotech in Canada, you sit and you eat dirt for a year and a half, and then one day you wake up and find that you can buy a boat, or that your boat just sunk. But it's never in the middle. It's always one of the two.
Market cap around 30 mil right now, Galen.
30 mil on 20 million revenues.
Mm-hmm.
Medexus is actually one of those lovely examples of a pharma company that you can step into and know that there's probably not going to be a long, torturous, and possibly disastrous wait for an FDA approval. Because, as Chris mentioned earlier, they take products that have already been put through the FDA and tweak them accordingly to serve new purposes, or just to bring them into the market because they haven't necessarily touched the Canadian market yet. So this is the best of both worlds. And because of its aim, which is to treat rare diseases, it's a specialty pharma company. So there's a lot of potential profit in the products that they provide because they're treating diseases that can't necessarily get treated elsewhere, and they have sort of a every quote unquote corner of that particular market by supplying those particular drugs. Right now, they have about 8 drugs, and I'm not going to go through them because they're a mouthful to say, and they treat a multitude of different rare diseases. But they have 8 drugs in their current portfolio that they're doing, and they also have 5 over-the-counter drugs that they're providing. So this company isn't going, wait, we're going to get something in a little while. We promise it's going to happen. As Chris said, they're on the ground, they're moving. There's 20 million in revenue through the door, and they're at a basement discount in terms of market cap right now because the market didn't really understand what was going on in terms of drug approval. And that seems to be a case for a lot of these companies in terms of how the investment community views them, because they don't understand the processes. Similar to a show that we did just recently on companies that are providing different platform services for computers and the internet and Web 3.0. The public just doesn't necessarily understand, and it's a huge detriment to these companies, unfortunately. And I think Medexus has been overlooked because of that and has great opportunity.
To that, Galen, 75% of NASDAQ biotech companies today are trading for less cash than they have in their bank accounts.
Ouch.
3/4 of an entire sector you can buy for less than they actually own. It's nuts.
Wow.
That's like a market inefficiency that we should all be taking advantage of.
Yeah, and I think it's indicative of maybe the overall fear, though, as well, like in the broader stock markets. Biotech, tends to be a bit, I guess
it's risky. Absolutely,
yeah, exactly.
It's risky because it deals with government regulations and administration approvals that don't necessarily come across in other products that are being manufactured. Totally.
Gold Vault man, you get to go next.
Awesome. Well, just as Galen was mentioning the products, I had the images of the products and what they deal with in terms of diseases. The one that is interesting to us is, of course, treosulfan, because that's the one where the FDA and that resubmission of basically resubmission of the NDA was taking place. So that's the drug that you want to be watching. That's where the whole stock sell-off began. And of course, that's likely going to be the catalyst for the stock in the future. Just taking a look at the presentation here, you can see that 75% of the revenue is US driven. And again, the reason why treosulfan is quite important is that Medexus' revenue profile is obviously rapidly evolving, but with the addition of treosulfan and another drug here, Gleoglan, that together will make up to 50% of their revenues within 5 years. So a very important drug here, and you can see here on the scale how important treosulfan is there. So that's the sell-off. When you take a look at the charts here, I'm pretty sure you can tell when that news event came. There was a big gap down on the stock. What is that? A 35% drop way back in August of 2021. We heard about the resubmission afterwards. And then the stock continued to drop, breaking below this major support level of around $2.50. And I am looking at the Toronto Stock Exchange listing. There is also an American listing as well. And I get excited, when I see the current price action from end of May to present day, just because I like to trade or invest in companies that have this market structure. When I see a very, very prolonged downtrend, obviously, I do take a look at the fundamentals, see what's happened, why this is occurring. Obviously, we know this is to do with that FDA resubmission there. But more importantly, usually when a stock is near its bottom or you're seeing selling pressure exhaust, you see a bit of a range develop. And we are seeing a range here between $2.20 and $1.90 to the downside. Was a bit of a big sell-off here on the 23rd of June, but not enough to cause a further breakdown below the previous low. So I think that's indicating that maybe that was just traders playing the range, to be honest, from the bottom here at $1.90, selling at $2.20. And I'm assuming they're likely going to be jumping in again here. The stock is holding above $1.90. Past 5 days of trading here have been slowly inching above $1.90, but it just looks like that we are about to have a breakout here above $2, which will probably take us above or back to the resistance at 220. And the real fun happens once we break above 220 and then get back above $2.50, right? So technically, it looks really nice. Like, we have a bottoming pattern, we have a basing, we just need that breakout. But what gets it even more exciting is the fact that we sort of know what that catalyst could be, right? And other fundamentals Chris mentioned about the cash position and the market cap of the stock. I think this is a big potential winner here. It looks quite exciting in terms of where we're at. The fact that the selling pressure is exhausting as well, and we have a nice catalyst upcoming.
Got to unmute there. I like it when you say when the fun begins.
Yep.
I'm laughing and you can't hear me. I think we had a bell. We've had bells recently. We're going to have a bell again, Chris Perry, with your investment on Medexus. 7,500 available to all of you.
Yeah, I think I'd probably put 5 down on Medexus right now. I'd like to see a little bit more forward activity, stock-wise. I think that they're making an effort to make sure this story's in front of as many people as possible. But I think 5 and see what it does to the stock. If it comes back down again, take another cheap 2.5. This is one of those stocks that I think reacts really nicely to a decent sized investment. There's enough ambition with people who are running it to really get out there and tell their story loudly, whereas some companies in the biotech space, they just don't say a damn word until that day the FDA comes. So I think 5K down with 2K lingering, depending on whether you get another drop, I think would be good. I would expect within the next month that there's going to be information, news, one way or another, either about that FDA trial or about more activity that the company's engaging in. And I say this because when you ask certain questions of companies, if there's nothing happening, they're really quick to tell you, oh yeah, well, maybe down the road. When there's something that they're working on, that's when they don't answer the question directly. And there's a couple of times where I've been like, so you guys working on some acquisitions? And they're like, yeah, so it's about 312. You like coffee? I like pizza. That's staying within the public disclosure rules, but they're also disclosing that something's afoot. And not to mention when a company that we've been probably not working with for the last year suddenly comes back and is really keen to work, it tells me something's happening. So keep your powder dry and be ready to go on Medexus.
All right, Galen, here's your $7,500. What are you doing?
Well, Chris mentioned that he was going to wait to sort of throw the remainder of that money in to see if, there's going to be a drop and he can pick up more shares on the fly. I mean, I admire that. I'm just not that kind of investor. I don't need to clear up everything. I just want to, I think I can get my piece and be happy with it as is. So I'm going to drop in 75. I'm looking at 10 years. And I think at that point, yes, I'll miss a little bit, but I don't have to get everything. I can wait. So there we go, 75 on it.
Bichette.
Yep, last week I said 75 and 100, and this week I'm going to stick with the same number. I think the bottoming here is quite exciting. Of course, it would be great if we get that break. I think the idea, the fundamentals with the numbers for revenues, and we have a big catalyst upcoming, that is obviously quite positive. What I would also be doing just personally is I would be keeping an eye out on the volume profile here as well. If I see a few days where the volume is rising quite rapidly, I think I would get even more excited, and maybe we play into what Chris was mentioning about them going a bit cold there, or not divulging too much information when you give them a call. That's usually a sign that, hey, give us a call when our press release is out, and then we'll begin to talk. So let's keep an eye out on that.
Pretty cool.
You guys have convinced me. I'm going all in. 75. Right. Let's go. Ring the bell.
Oh, you want the bell? Is that what you want? You want the bell?
There you go.
Yeah, ring the bell. Your bell sucks. We need like a hockey horn.
There you go. Oh, that's nice.
The hockey siren, yeah.
That bell is a little different. I've had two different bells this week. By the way, Medexus, I think they were part of a mini sector recently.
Yep.
So a lot of money flying out the door to Medexus. There you go. It's MDP. That would be Magnolia, Daisy, Petunia. Decided to go with a flowery theme. So outside the basement for the first time. It's the first time the company's let me outside the basement.
Someone's been buying flowers for his girl.
Poor Galen's still in the basement. Goldman upstairs, and of course McPerry's just off from hunting cat. We can't guarantee anything we've told you. We can't guarantee results, nor can previous performance. So do your homework on Medexus, please. We're not responsible. You are for your investments. And that's about all. MDP on the Toronto Exchange out of Bolton. The palindrome of Bolton, Vishal, is what?
It's Ipswich. I think that's what you wanted me to say.
It's not Lob. My
bad.
I like Ipswich.
We'll see you on the next Equity.Guru investor.
I ruined it at the end, man. Sorry about that. Forgot the line.
What is even happening?